Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of Chicks and Sticks, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. My name is Melissa Boyd, and I'm once again joined by my partners in crime, Kristy Flannery, Hannah Garfield, and Mariah Holland. How you doing tonight, ladies?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So if you're on episode 14
already.
That's crazy.
Already. Feels like we just started this thing. So for episode 14, make sure to drop us a like or a follow if you like what you're watching and or listening, because we are on all your favorite podcast platforms as well. And if you have any questions, we'll be sure to answer them in a future episode. So this week, we're gonna, now that free agency and the offseason has died down a little bit, we're gonna take a look at a bit the state of the teams that we cover here at the Hockey Writers. Where the rosters are at, where improvements are needed, kind of recap the moves that were made over the last few weeks. So that's kind of what's in store for tonight. And we'll get you set for puck drop in October, which is getting closer than you think. So I think training camp starts in 6 weeks about. So won't be without hockey for much longer, thankfully. So the first topic I want, So the first topic I want to cover is sort of recapping your team's moves over the last few weeks. So either before the draft, like expansion draft, entry draft, free agency trades. So we'll start with the Minnesota Wild and Mariah. So can you talk to us a little bit what's been happening in Minnesota?
Well, obviously, the biggest news was Parise and Suter being gone. And unfortunately, they lost Bonino, Cole, a bunch of players that I didn't even realize we lost till I was looking it up. I was just like, wait, Mayhew's gone, Belpedio I'm kind of okay with because he didn't really play a whole lot for us anyway. But Luke Johnson was one of their up-and-coming centers, and he's gone too. So we lost a lot of people, but we made a lot of moves on the blue line, or they did. I'm not part of it, but
pretend that you are. It's fine.
I wish I would have changed it, but
you mean you're not calling Bill Garrett and be like, you need to do this?
Well, what surprised me is we only signed one forward for free agency. That was, losing Parise, all of them guys. I would have thought they would have tried to sign some more and even with Fiala and Kaprizov, they're not guaranteed, but they are. I don't know. It's so messed up with that part, but we signed, I'm gonna probably mess up how to say his last name, but Goudreau, is that okay? Yeah, we signed him, and I was doing a little bit more research because I'll be completely honest, I had no idea who he was. And he's a good center for like turnovers and things like that. He doesn't have a lot of points, but he also was stuck behind Crosby, Malkin when he was at Pittsburgh, and in Nashville he was behind Fisher. I'm gonna blank out on the names, even though I just wrote them all down in my article. I think Johansson was one of them too. He was behind a lot of good centers that unfortunately he was overshadowed and maybe didn't get as much playing time either. So at least with the Wild, he will probably be behind Eriksson Ek, but he can hopefully get some more ice time and have some good wings, and maybe Fiala. I don't know if he'd be with Kaprizov yet, but just to see if he could create some movement with the puck. Defense is really where we did a lot of moves, which we'd have to with Suter being gone and Cole. Dimitri Kulikov, is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
I'm doing okay.
We got one.
I feel like you have all the tough names right now.
He was one of the ones, another one I didn't really know a lot about until I looked him up last night, but I was impressed with his because he's been in the league for 12 seasons, but he's had almost 1,000 blocks for just 725 games. So he averages almost a block per game, give or take, and that's pretty good, especially for a defenseman. The Wild need that. And they did also sign Goligoski, the Minnesota native, which everyone was excited about. I did think it was a little bit high, but I mean, he could renegotiate his contract, he was saying too. So we'll see how that works out. But I mean, they did a lot of moves, but also not a lot. I don't want to go into the smaller ones, but those were the main ones I really noticed. And I'm hoping they will make some headway with us losing all of our big name guys.
Yep, feels like there's still some question marks before puck drops. Okay, so now we're going to move over to Boston and the Bruins, who also have had, a lot of goings for sure, pretty significant ones. So Hannah, can you get us caught up on what's going on?
Yeah. I think it says a lot that I think the biggest, good things that have gone right for the Bruins so far is the fact that they've been able to re-sign some of their players and, re-signing Hall, re-signing Carlo to a really good deal, re-signing, am I blanking? They re-signed someone else, I think, but I'm blanking now. But basically Hall and Carlo were the biggest names, and bringing those back, those guys back was essential. And then they added Nick Foligno, Tomas Nosek, Eric Holla on offense, which could go more into my thoughts on that later. But I think I think Foligno is literally such a great guy and a really great player and a really great leader. And I also am a fan of Eric Holla from watching him on the Cane for a while. Like I have no problem with them as players. I think signing all three is a little questionable for the Bruins. And then adding Derek Forbort on defense is great. Mariah and I have already talked about this a little bit. And I think he's a good addition. And also, but then, the biggest signing was Linus Ullmark in goal, which I really like Ullmark. I think he was a good goalie on a bad Sabres team. I think in general, I also think Carter Hutton was a pretty good goalie, again, on a bad Sabres team. I do have questions about the length and the amount. I think 4 years, $20 million is a little too much term and too much cash. Actually, the $5 million isn't as big as a deal to me. It's the 4 years, because we already kind of saw that little bit of Swayman. And I think he only needs maybe 2 or 3 years to kind of be ready to take over full time. So I feel like that 4th year is what is kind of holding me up on this deal. And that I feel like it's going to look bad, especially committing 4 years to an injury-prone goalie. I think he's awesome. I think he's a really talented player. But there are injury questions, and the Bruins also have another young goaltender coming up. So I feel like getting another guy who's going to want to be a starter and should be a starter for that long of a time is a little questionable. And of course, our biggest departure is David Krejci. Came literally 3 days after, like 3 or 4 days after I wrote an article about how the Bruins need to re-sign him. And it still remains true. They needed to re-sign him because there's no one that leaves a huge hole on the second line, which is going to be, I don't think there's anyone in the system ready to replace them. So Sweeney's going to have to do a move going to have to make a trade to get someone in there. But overall, I feel like it's been weird, their additions. Because they brought in good pieces, but not the necessary pieces.
If you were the GM, who would you want to trade for to replace Krejci?
That's so hard. Oh my gosh.
It's hard, right? When you really think about it.
Because there's a lot of talented centers, but I'm also like, who realistically would be available? So I'm like trying to go through my head of like, who do I think?
It's second line, right?
Yeah.
See, the only center that I think is reliable is Travis Zajac. but I don't know if he'd be on a second line at this point in his career.
Yeah. And I was like, that's a really tough question. I have not thought about that yet.
Maybe that's why there hasn't been a trade for one
right?
yet.
That's why.
Yeah.
That's why we're all stumped.
Yeah.
It's hard when you have to put the pieces together.
Yes.
It becomes really challenging. Like, they don't get enough credit for doing what they do.
No.
Well, Hannah, Boston took Nick Foligno from us. And then in the article I worked on today, I said we should have tried to go after Hala and bring him back here. So Boston took 2 of my people I wanted.
I am so sorry, but also not sorry.
She's not. I was gonna say she's not really sorry though. So, all right, we'll move to Christina, who actually covers 2 teams at the Hockey Writers, and 2 teams who are kind of in different places right now. One being the New Jersey Devils, who actually many are considering to be one of the winners of the offseason and free agency, because they got the biggest fish in free agency in Dougie Hamilton. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the Nashville Predators, who, well, we're not really sure what's going on over there. It's a little cloudy. So let's see if Kristy can enlighten us a little here.
Which one should I talk about first?
Whichever you will go. You feel
okay.
Like.
We'll go with New Jersey because that's more of a positive spin. So the Fitzgerald, he's pulling some magic. I don't know what he's saying to these players to make New Jersey a desirable location, but like, hand claps to him. He's doing a phenomenal job. He brought in obviously Dougie Hamilton. He traded for Ryan Graves, so he immediately improved the blue line. The good thing with New Jersey and really a couple other teams is when you're at the bottom, there's really nowhere to go but up. So what Fitzgerald's doing is he really is improving the team. The blue line got better. It got stronger. Reeves, I think Graves is 6'5", Hamilton's 6'6". So I'm completely okay with that kind of move. And to give, Ty Smith another veteran presence to kind of look up to and play with. They brought in Thomas Tatar today. That was the newest signing. And Mel is actually more familiar with him than I am. So yes. Mel, what do Devils fans have to look forward to with Thomas Tatar?
Well, you're getting a good one. First of all, you're getting a really good guy. He was great. He spent 3 years with the Canadiens. Yeah. He was actually considered to be kind of a throw-in in the Max Pacioretty trade for Nick Suzuki, but actually he was our most productive player in those 3 seasons. 5-on-5, his numbers are unbelievable.
Yes.
He's a great 5-on-5 player. He drives a lot of offense. He was part of one of the most efficient lines in the NHL with Philip Deneau and Brendan Gallagher. So I think that's a great signing for the Devils, especially considering that Fitzgerald came out and said, like, I'm looking for a top 6 winger. And he was actually the first guy that I thought of. I thought that would be a great fit. And I think he's going to help a lot. So I'm happy for both. I'm happy for player and team on this one for sure.
Yeah. I think he had 30 points in 50 games last season. So that's definitely what the Devils need. And low key, I think signing Jonathan Bernier to back up Blackwood was genius. I don't think people realize that Bernier won a Stanley Cup in 2012. He is the veteran presence that Blackwood really needs. And he's kind of taking place of what Crawford was supposed to be last year. So as long as Bernier doesn't go in and retire next month, we're golden. I think the big thing is Devils fans need to be excited, but you need to be in reality. This is not a cup contending team, but Fitzgerald is getting us in the right direction. So overall, I think they're on the right track. They're just not going to be there quite yet. On the flip side, we have Nashville, and oh man, they are in, I want to say it's a rebuild. It could be considered like a little retweaking, but it's a rebuild, but you have Roman Josi. So how bad can it be, right? You lost Pekka Rinne, you lost Ryan Ellis, you did lose, you traded Victor Arvidsson, you lost Callie, but you have enough pieces left to kind of make it work. So I think for me, looking at their GM, who was so committed emotionally to that core group, breaking them up was a good step that, okay, we're putting aside the emotional aspect of it and we're focusing on the business, and we have to put a winning team onto the ice. So they didn't have the greatest offseason compared to other teams like New Jersey, but they're doing what they need to do, and they need to rebuild with the pieces that they have and get the younger defensemen used to playing like more time against, not the Crosbys, because that's always going to be Roman Yossi's thing, but the higher elevated talent instead of just, that third pairing defensive pairing.
Yeah, for sure. They have a lot of good young defensemen too, I think, who are gonna jump into the spotlight. And we'll realize how good they are this year, I think.
And I think what's really great with Nashville is like you still have Bridgestone. Like it's still Smashville. It might not be a cup contending team, but you're going to go to the arena in October and it's still going to be a good time. There's still things to be positive about in Nashville, even though you lost Rene and Ellis. For sure.
So we'll wrap up this topic with my team, the Habs. So we'll do it quickly. So yes, our off season has been more about who's gone as opposed to who's come in. Of course, we've all heard the Shea Weber story. So he will be out for at least this season. Impossible to replace, of course. Marc Bergevin did bring in David Savard to add that sort of penalty killing, tough to play against, really solid defensive defenseman to sort of replace some of what Weber brought. And also, to replace Tatar, he brought in Mike Hoffman, the goal scoring machine. He will definitely help our power play, the Habs power play. He's a shooter that they've been missing for the last few seasons. So I'm excited to see him on one side and Caulfield on the other side on the power play. That'll be fun. Not fun for goalies, but fun for everyone else. And also they added a couple of depth pieces in Cedric Paquette and Matthew Perreault. Mm-hmm. So Bergevin is also at the same time making sure that we're always going to have Quebec-born players in the lineup, mm-hmm. so that they don't get in trouble for that this year. So it's nice to see some local players coming home. They seem really excited about it. And also last one was just Chris Weidman, who's going to try and make a return to the NHL after winning Defenseman of the Year in the KHL last season. So we'll see how that goes. So that pretty much wraps it up. And of course we lost Philip Deneau, which is a huge loss. Good for the Kings. He's going to be great there. So it's again, really hard to replace. So we'll see it. The young players are going to have to really step up.
I feel like LA is going to be a quiet, really, if they're going to be a play. I feel like they're going to be back in the playoff this year,
especially in the Pacific Division that they're in. I think for sure they're making the playoffs. Yeah.
I think I said that. It's like dark horse. It's going to be really, they're going to be good. And if they get Eichel, forget about it. They are the dark horse, I think, going into October. Yeah. And like having Kopitar and Deneau as their 1-2 centers, like, that's going to be tough to play against, like really tough to play against. So
that's going to be so helpful to those young forwards, having both of them there.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Good call. So next topic quickly. So we talked about what has already been done. So I wanted to get your thoughts on what should be done or still needs to be done from now until October. Obviously it's quiet right now, but you never know these days when trades or signings or things are going to pop up. So kind of tell me what you would like to see your GMs do from now till October. We'll start with Hannah this time.
Well, they need a center, and they still
need a center.
They still need a center. This is what I was saying when I was talking about how I think I like the signings they've done so far, but I don't think they're necessarily the right signings. I think they, the Bruins have always struggled with depth. So yes, they address that depth on the wings, but they haven't really addressed the depth down the center. And I think that was something that they really did struggle with this year. And losing David Krejci is not going to be something they can really stand. So they really do need that second line center, and just replacing them with, that's what they did last year in defense, is they just decided that they were going to replace them with the young guys who, they had their moments, but they weren't necessarily, my laptop just started moving.
There's a ghost in your
and there is no alcohol on this episode.
No, not at all.
I don't know how that happened, but anyways.
Because I'm still technically working. But yes, no. So they, took these guys from Providence who weren't necessarily ready to be, big roles in the NHL. They needed kind of the small segue roles. Mm-hmm. And there's no real prospect that is 100% ready to jump into that second line center. And the one really big center prospect they have is Jack Studnicka, who I think is very talented. But he struggled a lot last year. And I don't think that struggling on, a third, fourth line pairing in one season means you're ready to be the second line center the next season. And right now it's looking like it's either going to be him or Charlie Coyle, which again, another player I think is incredible and does so much in the community and is really talented. And he's very talented in being the clutch guy that you need in that moment. But he is much better suited in a third line role. So they really need a center. I was trying to do some brainstorm while we were here, and I was thinking of who are centers on teams that I don't think are going to be contenders that might become available. And the only name I could really think of was maybe Tomas Hertl on the San Jose Sharks, because I'm assuming
that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yes, because we know the San Jose Sharks are not going to be competitors this year.
No.
Sorry, no offense to San Jose fans.
I think you would upset San Jose fans though, because from what I gather, he's probably the only player they actually don't want to trade.
Yes, yeah. But I feel like that's another team that needs to just break everything down. Do a complete rebuild, and he's 27. So yes, he could potentially be someone to build around, but do you want to do that, or do you want to get some good prospects out of him? Not that I think the Bruins have a ton to offer in that way, so I doubt it would ever happen. And the one other thing they still need to address is they still need another defenseman, I would say. They lost Jeremy Lauzon, they lost Kevin Miller, who, even though Kevin Miller wasn't really fully there the whole season with his injuries, I still think they need someone else, as we saw in the playoffs when they just had depth issues with defense. So another one would not hurt at all.
Kristy, back to you for the Devils and the Preds.
So I might be of the only opinion here, but I think, like I said, Fitzgerald's doing a really good job trying to build this roster into something. And I think for the Devils, it's they're in a little bit of a waiting game. Like they're so young that it could be that the pieces are there that you need. It's just a matter of them kind of getting a little bit more time to develop. I think eventually, if they do become competitive, depth is probably going to be an issue. So I would say maybe down the line, but I think going in for them, I think it's really more just getting the young guys experience and trying to find those combinations that are really going to work and build off that chemistry. Because he really did. He got a top 6 forward. He got a goaltender. He got 2 defensemen. So he is doing everything that he's supposed to do as a GM. So yeah, I kind of think that it's just a matter of really development for New Jersey right now.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Pretty much all I got on them.
A transition year.
Yeah, just give him more time. Give Jack Hughes more time. Give Nico some more time. And see what happens. See what happens after the season, what they can do.
And what about David Poyle in Nashville? Do you think he's done, or there's some more tweaking to be had?
I think there needs to be more tweaking, but there's also, I think for them specifically, it's almost too early to tell if what they're doing is the right decision yet. You know, like it's just I know that he was trying to move Johansson. I know that he was trying to kind of get him out, but I think they lost so many key pieces that have been in the organization for so long that they kind of need to see what's left before they start. Because, doing not enough is a bad thing, but doing too much is also a bad thing. Mm-hmm. So I think they kind of need to just, for me, I would like them to just figure out what they have left right now. Like, we did a lot of moves in the offseason. We made more changes this offseason than I think they have in the past couple of years. So let's just see where we're at. And then for the trade deadline coming up, the upcoming trade deadline, then we can start figuring out what we actually need to fill in.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yep. No, totally.
All right.
Mariah, you didn't seem too thrilled with Bill Guerin's move so far. So what would you like to see him do in the coming weeks?
I trust him. I really do. It's just like I was expecting a bigger name. No offense to Gaudreau, because he could completely come in and just be who knows, whatever. But honestly, the biggest thing they have to do is sign Fiala and Kaprizov and get them here.
Yep.
I mean, they're working with that on Fiala because of arbitration, but Kaprizov, I mean, I don't think anyone knows what's going on. He just posted the other day to like NHL's Instagram page that he's out like wakeboarding or surfing somewhere, like no care in the world. I'm like, can you please just sign so I can breathe a sigh of relief? But I mean, other than that, they have to figure out, they have like one spot open for forwards, and they need to figure out if they're going to use that with Matt Boldy or Marco Rossi. And a lot of people are really excited to see them. I'm just a little nervous if we're putting too much pressure onto them, because so many of our top prospects, no offense to them at all, haven't amounted to a whole lot.
Too much.
And that's no fault of their own. I think we just, ever since like Gabrick way back when, we get a top pick and it's like, oh yay, and it's just like, well, let's let them develop and see where they go first before we just throw them in the top and be like, here you go. I mean, maybe finding another wing for Kaprizov's line, because I mean they kind of shuffle them around so much. I would love to see him on the same line as Fiala, but they don't seem to want to do that other than power play. So
yeah.
And I mean, the last thing is, I guess, just make sure the defense is as strong as it was before Suter left. I mean, if they can keep that core going with Spurgeon, Brodin, and Dumba, I think the other guys can, especially Goligoski, he'll slide right in there, I think.
Yeah.
And Kulikov, I haven't seen a whole lot of, but with his defensive play that I've been looking up, I mean, I think the defense is going to be solid. It's going to be our forwards that, other than our top two, we'll see what happens.
Sounds good. Well, for the Habs, it's pretty simple, actually. They need a puck-moving defenseman that can play in their top four and on the power play. But we've been saying that for years now, so not
you and me both, sweetie.
Yeah, not holding my breath, but it was nice to hear Bergevin actually admit that he needs one. So let's see if that moves along. The other thing ideally would be a third line center to replace Deno's defensive prowess. I know they've been connected to Christian Dvorak out of Arizona, so I think that would be a great replacement. So we'll see if he adds any center depth. So that's pretty much it, though, for the Canadiens. Pretty clear cut what they need to do. So moving on to our final topic of the night. So we've gone over the changes and the things we'd like to see. So given the current state of your respective teams, do you think that they're better than last season right now? And do you think they have enough to get into the playoffs? So Kristy, will go with you first.
Okay. Yes, the Devils are a better team today than they were at the end of the season. Are they a cup contender? No. Will they make the playoffs? I'm going to say no. Based on the Metro is a really difficult division. It's not the Pacific. So I'm going to say they're going in the right direction. Sorry, that's my motto of the show, is they're going in the right direction. But this is not a winning team yet. Not yet. And as far as Nashville, they, I think, are actually worse than they were in the playoffs. They kind of got into the playoffs by a wing and a prayer last season. And I don't think that they will be in the playoffs this season. And I think the biggest X factor is, again, I think it's going to be on Saros. If Saros can be the superhuman that he was the last couple months of the season, they might be able to sneak in, because I don't know how competitive the Central is going to be this year. I feel like the Central is the biggest question mark. Yeah. Mariah, do you agree with that?
Yes. Wholeheartedly.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like they're a question mark where it can go either way, but I would say no, they're not going to make the playoffs.
Mariah, what do you think?
Oh boy. Better than last season? Honestly, I don't know what to say, because we lost Parisi and Suter, but I mean, we've gained some. I'm on a middle ground for that one. I don't know. Cup contender, probably, as hard as it is to say, probably not.
I feel like they're sneaky though.
I know. It's like,
I feel like they can kind of come out of nowhere again.
Yeah.
Playoffs, I would say yes, just because they always can get in there. It's just getting past that first round is the hardest part. But I mean, we'll see. I think Kaprizov is going to be, if he signs, I think he's going to be pretty fired up to get this team moving. So
yeah,
I'm hoping.
Definitely.
There's just a quick work emergency, so I'm just gonna have to. Mel, you go, and I'll be right there.
So the Bruins. I mean, I guess. Well, I mean, I'm a little biased, right? I can't be too biased on this, but I think losing Krejci is a big loss, so I would say they're about the same. So they'll contend in the Atlantic Division, I think. I think Henna did a great job sort of summing up what they've got going on. And for the Habs, well, I don't think they're better than last year, unfortunately. But I think it's a lot. There's a lot of opportunity on this roster for next season, especially for our young players to really take their roles and really take a big step. So that's what I'm most looking forward to. And so in that, you never know what can happen. But I also think the fact that they're playing in the Atlantic Division, which is going to be a really tough division next season. I think it's going to be really tough for them to get into the playoffs. I think too many things have to go right for them. Maybe they will, maybe it all will work out, but it's going to be a tough slog for sure for them.
Do you think that Price can carry the team on his back again?
I don't think so. I think what I've heard is that they really are going to start really reducing his workload. Which was, I think, a big reason why it was agreed upon that he would waive his no move to go in the expansion draft, because they really didn't want to lose Jake Allen, and it seemed like it was inevitable that was going to happen. So I don't think he can. I think Jake Allen's going to be really, really important. I think they're probably going to my guess is they're probably going to be 60-40 next year. So so it's, but I mean, Jake Allen didn't play in the playoffs this year, but boy, does he deserve a lot of credit for getting them into the playoffs, because without him, they wouldn't have done what they did. Exactly. So I think it's we got a scare that we might lose Price, but I think it was the first step of us getting used to a post-Price era, so which is scary to think about, but I think we're getting there.
And if anyone's wondering who the most important chick is, it is absolutely Hannah Garfield.
It is.
She is the most important chick.
Because we've lost all of our simple math skills and everything.
Contract, everything's going out the window. Hannah's gone.
Notice how, like, when she talked about the signings, like the first thing she talked about was the contract. Like, I like the player, but I don't like the 20 million in the 4 years.
I wrote down just for her, I wrote down how much cap space both my teams had. Cause I usually like, that is not the first thought that I have. And I'm like, Hannah will know. So I need to get on that level.
She'd be very proud of you.
Exactly.
This is what she thought of.
So out of all of our teams, so all 5, which team is going to perform the best and who's going to perform the worst next season?
I'm going to say best. I'm going to say Minnesota, I think.
I agree.
Yeah, I think so.
I was secretly thinking it, but didn't want to say it.
It's fine.
We all know you're biased. It's okay. Only be biased. You have the picture behind you. Just live for it.
Roll with it. It's fine.
It's better than my plain ugly sheet thing.
We're getting really fancy on Chicks and Sticks.
Yeah, I know. Notice our new headphones, everybody, for this week. We're really going, really upping this thing.
We'll have ring lights next week. It's going to be a really big thing.
I've got one. Just can't see it.
So who's going to be the worst? And why is it going to be either New Jersey or Nashville?
I'm going to say Nashville. I'm going to say Nashville. And in a way, not that I hope that it's them, but I kind of, like you said, like there's so much that needs to happen there.
Yeah.
And it seems, and you put it so well that he's kind of seems to be so committed to this.
Yeah.
That hasn't really performed for him for the last few years. So,
And I think what speaks volumes is I was reading an article and it was saying how Forsberg has been just so upset that all of like the Arvidsson left, that all these guys are leaving. And I'm like, but is that more important in your organization instead of having like that winning attitude? Like, listen, we all go to work and it's great when you get along with your coworkers. Like that's something special that you don't get all the time, but you have to also have that winning attitude of, it sucks, but it's a business and I get it. You can't have that. So I'm wondering how the locker room is going to adjust with so many main players out of the picture. I mean, even Eric Holla, he's gone too. So I'm curious what the attitude in that room is going to be like come October. Because again, you have UC Saros who ended the season he was the best goaltender by the end of the season. Mm-hmm. He really was by leaps and bounds. He was better than anybody else that was playing. You still have Roman Josi. Like you're good. You're not Buffalo. You'll be okay.
Yeah, no, that's it. And I think, but it's opportunity, right? For somebody to step in either to a leadership role or to really, become the new sort of star of the team. And I think that's what Nashville needs, like sort of a new face to step in, especially up front. And so, I mean, like I said, I kind of do hope it's them just so that they can kind of go into a more of a rebuild.
Instead of a competitive rebuild, that they're calling it. We're going to be competitive in our rebuild.
I love how all the GMs have come up with new terms to describe what they're trying to do. Like
they're just making stuff up as they go along.
And you're like, what does that even mean? Like, do you even know what that means? No.
When you say competitive rebuild, you're kind of setting up your fans to you're setting them up for a failure here.
Yeah.
Like at least in New Jersey, we know where we're at. I mean, there's some people that think that we're going to be a cup contender, which blows my mind. Like, listen, baby steps here. We had a really good offseason when we had Wayne Simmons and PK Subban. We haven't had a really bad offseason in a couple seasons. It's not doing anything during the regular season. So we'll see how it goes. But I agree. Minnesota is going to be the best. I agree.
Yes, I agree. I think, and don't worry, Mariah, I think Fiala and Kaprizov will be signed and all will be right with the world. And
I'm thinking so, but a little teeny part of me is like, they're going to come in and just crush me at some point.
I think Fiala is coming back. I have a question mark with your Calder Trophy winner.
Yeah,
I have a question mark.
Somebody did tweet. I don't remember who it was. Oh, who is the Islanders goalie?
Samsonov? Did I just make no?
Sorokin and
Sorokin. I think it was. I saw someone retweeted something he said, and he was like, I see all these people worrying about Kaprizov going back to the KHL, and I just laugh. I'm like, I hope that means that he's coming back here.
Yeah.
I hope that means what I hope it means.
Yeah, right.
Like, Karen went through all the work to get you last year. Don't up and do this to us.
Yeah, for sure. That would really suck. So that's all the time we have for this week. We finished the show shorthanded, but we did a pretty good job, I think, filling in for Hannah and her. Hopefully everything's okay.
Yeah.
She's in the middle of her big film festival. So that's, it was nice of her that she was able to join in the middle of her work schedule.
She's very important.
She's very important.
Very, very important.
Without her, we are not chicks and sticks, but we prevailed. So thank you, as always, to all of you for watching and listening. We really appreciate it. As we said, we've already made it up to 14 episodes, and we've got a lot more coming up in the coming weeks. We have some really cool guests that will be on through the month of August to get you all excited for the new season. And be sure to check out all the other shows being produced on a weekly basis by the Hockey Writers. So many great shows happening every day of the week, which is amazing. If you're Blackhawks, Oilers, Maple Leafs, any team, we've got you covered. Hello. Yeah. And our new show, What's Kraken, about the newest NHL franchise, the Seattle Kraken. So make sure to check that out, and make sure you're subscribed to all of our platforms, social media, YouTube, and reading all of our articles to stay up to date on everything. And of course, sign up to our morning newsletter, Morning Skate, by visiting morningskate.io. See, Chris is always happy when I mention that because
it's so good. I'm not even talking about me, but the guys are just so good.
I can attest, it's great. I read it every morning, and it gets me my day started off on the right foot. So definitely do that. And until then, hopefully you're able to keep yourselves busy without hockey on, but make sure to enjoy the rest of your summers, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.